What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Sit Down Saturday. And today we're going to talk about conventions. With TFCon coming up and Baltimore Comic Con is coming up near me, New York Comic Con is this weekend. There's a lot going on right now in the kind of fourth quarter. So figured it would be worthwhile talking about. Every now and then I get hit up about advice for stuff like that. So now is a good enough time as any. But before we get there, we got to do some house cleaning. So good news and bad news. The good news is I have t-shirts available on Teespring now. The link will be in the description. I have a couple designs. I have the fan price bro to represent the 4 dummies. Truth shirts. DMH shirts. That's the company here. Sit Down Saturday shirts. And I even have a shirt that says, "Your shelf is trash." Look, I know it's lowbrow, but I was like playing around with making the little designs, and I was like, dude, this is funny. Sorry if it bothers you. I just thought it was funny. It's just all in good fun to me. So yeah, if you're looking at a shirt, go ahead and check out the site. Link will be the first thing in the description. The bad news, my phone got run over by multiple cars this week. It's a fact. I left it sitting on somebody's car, it flew off, hit the road, cars drove over it, and it beat the OtterBox off of it. Also a fact. So don't worry about me. I got a new phone. Been dealing with that kind of all week, so I've been a little bit more MIA. If I missed your text message or whatever, like if you hit me up and I missed it, it might have got lost in the sauce between those two periods, so hit me back up if you haven't heard from me. I'm not being rude, that's not really my style. But we're back in service now. I'm recording this Thursday night after just seeing The Joker. I liked it. But that's important information to know in regards to our next bit of information, which is about the Unicron. All of a sudden, a spike in 1,000. This thing is going to get funded, I would imagine. It's going to end Sunday. I've been thinking about trying to go live on the channel to try to cover it, like as it ends. I'm not sure if I'm going to make that happen or not. If I do, I'll post it on my Facebook or something, and then you guys can know, but I haven't decided yet. But I would like to. It's just whether or not kind of my life permits. Weekends, I usually donate to my family. We'll see. But we had a huge spike. I wish it didn't seem fishy. I mean, I win ultimately because I back the thing, but sketchy. All right, and now let's clean up the week. So we had the video about YouTube changes, right? And a lot of people had varying different opinions. Actually, very interesting comment section to kind of read through. And look, the blame is on multiple people, right? I saw this. I'm just going to reiterate it. We talked about this already, but people were saying like if the parents just wouldn't like, and you're right, the parents should be on their kids. You're absolutely right. However, there's also people on YouTube creating content for children under the age of 13, which is against the rules. Like they broke the rules too. So they got to take some of the responsibility as well. And then YouTube allowed that content to continue and then allowed the algorithm to track that content. So YouTube has to take some blame as well, right? So there's blame to go around all around. I do agree the lion's share probably does end at the feet of the parents. However, the next slice would probably go to the content creators. Next up, the Make Toys for Dummies conversation. Look, if you commented that the wing fillers were sold separately, I need a favor, okay? Call your mom, call your dad this weekend. They'd love to hear from you anyway. You don't call enough, and you know it. Give them my email address and ask them if they were ever tempted to grab you by your shoulders at any point during your upbringing and just shake you. Because sometimes that's how I feel. And they didn't. They made the right choice, right? Because you're here, and they made the responsible choice. But I know the filler wings can be bought separately. It's not the point. Stop worrying about trying to correct me at every turn and listen to what I am saying. Goodness gracious. No wonder Make Toys wants to quit. They probably got to deal with that all day. Makes me want to quit. The point is that they had a release that was a popular release, however, still dealt with a strong backlash from people about the wing thing to the point where they had to put it with a second release, and then they heard stuff about that as well. Like, the point I was trying to make was that maybe they are just going through a phase of losing passion, of losing enthusiasm, and one of the reasons may be dealing with us. That's all I was trying to say. Good night. All right, and that'll do it. Let's get into the convention stuff. So, TFCon is right around the corner at Reston. A lot of people have been asking if I will be there. I definitely will be there, and I'm going to try to have another infomercial. You guys seemed to like that last year. I'm going to try to have another infomercial up before the event so you guys kind of know what I'm bringing to the table this year. Same stuff, a couple new things. I'm also going to be at Baltimore Comic Con the weekend prior. I've gone since I was a kid. I think I've only missed 1 year, and I try not to. If you're going to either, hit me up. I'm only working a booth at TFCon. I'm going as an attendee of Baltimore. But I often get asked for advice. And I've been going to conventions for a long time, and I've been on both sides of the table, right? So I'm going to give some advice to the buyers, I'm going to give some advice to the sellers, and I'm going to give some advice to all. This isn't going to be necessarily slideshow heavy because I don't have a whole lot of pictures. I'll try to throw in some video from previous shows. So there's a couple things you want to do as a buyer. As a buyer, you want to start, number one, with the exclusives, in my opinion. Find out what the exclusives are, find out which exclusives you're interested in, and the first objective should be to secure those exclusives as soon as you walk through the door. That should be the first objective, because as soon as you've done that, everything else you can account for later. That's the one thing that you can only get while you're there without paying more, right? So get through the door, get the exclusives is my recommendation. One other thing that I pretty much hold right on par with the exclusive stuff for attendees or buyers is look at the schedule, look at the panels, look at the guests. Make sure that you schedule out your itinerary for the panels and the guests so that you don't miss anything that you really wanted to see. You gotta do a lot of traveling, you gotta do a lot of expenses in order to get here. Make sure that you take advantage of everything that's offered. Look through the program, see what's available, find out what's going on, and if you don't know, ask somebody and they should be able to help you. And we'll get into talking to people a little bit later in this video. But yeah, just make sure you don't miss anything. There's plenty of good panels, plenty of good guests. Depending on what Comic-Con you're going to, or TFCon, or whatever the case may be. Tons of stuff you don't want to miss in that regard, but you got to schedule it out. You know what I mean? Make sure that you don't miss it. Sort it into your shopping and your exclusives and your kind of chill time, because you want to make sure you get chill time too with everybody, meet everybody, hang out. Second, know what you want. Have a list of things that you want to get. This way you don't leave without looking for something that I should have looked for such and such. That's one of the things I've been wanting. And maybe you don't blow money on stuff you know you don't necessarily really want. You're just in the kind of vibe of spending money, so you buy something you wouldn't normally buy. Know what you want. The other part of that is knowing what the prices are. This way you can't be taken for a ride. You know the prices. You've done your research. You know what it goes for. So nobody can take advantage of you. You can sort of set a bar and a precedent in your head of what you're willing to spend for a certain amount of stuff. Also, be willing to negotiate. They're humans, right? And it is business. They're on one side of the table, you're on the other. Think of it from their perspective. Ask if you get a couple things that they could take a couple bucks off, or if you're short on money and you say, look, I have this much, would you be willing to? I mean, the worst they can say is no, right? So be willing to negotiate. But also remember, negotiation is give and take. Now the part that sometimes goes hand in hand with that is don't be a prick. You know what disrespect is. Your parents have already started emailing me. They told me they taught you better. If somebody's asking $50 for something and you say, would you take $5? You're being a prick. There's no need for that. If you're only willing to spend $5 and he says the price is $50, not the guy you probably are going to be successful with negotiating. Sorry, I had to get a new mask. That other one was bothering me a little bit. Now we'll move on to the sellers. There are two types of sellers. There's the one type of seller that is his business. That's his 9 to 5. That's how he puts food on the table. There's the other type of seller that realizes he's got too much stuff and is willing to part with some stuff to make room for more stuff, or has hit some financial troubles and needs to part with some stuff to make money, to cover the bills or what have you. There's two types of sellers in my opinion. You're going to have varying degrees of success with both based on those parameters. I've never sold toys and that kind of stuff for my 9 to 5. So I can't give advice on that. I have sold on the other side though. So I have a little bit of advice for those folks. Know your goal. If you are selling at a table, know what your goal is. What's the benchmark? Because once you reach the benchmark, your flexibility for everything beyond the benchmark should go up, in my opinion. Because at that point, you've reached your goal. Sometimes it's better to get rid of the stuff than have to pack it all back up or find space for it in your basement or in your storage shed or wherever you're putting this stuff. So know your goal, keep track of your money. As soon as you reach the goal, start thinking about what you're willing to take for product to get it out of your hands. As much as it's important for the buyer to know what they want, it's important for you to know what you want, and that's your goal. My second piece of advice for sellers: remember, this franchise can only live on if kids are into it. So when you see kids, especially kids, coming up looking through your $5 buckets or your $10 buckets, think about what it means to just give that piece away to a kid. Now obviously you can't let these kids walk all over you, and as a guy with kids, kids, I'll tell you firsthand, they will if you let them. But if a kid walks up to my table when I'm selling toys and wants something, chances are he's walking away with it. They are the future of this fandom. And if we don't take care of them, the fandom will die. And so will your ability to make money in the future. But also the franchise that probably you love enough to get into this business in the first place will die along with it. Take care of the kids. My last piece of advice for sellers, don't be a prick. You know the value. You know what it's worth. If somebody gives you a reasonable price and you have it marked at an unreasonable price, don't be a prick. If somebody asks for an unreasonable price, they may just not know any better. It doesn't help the situation at all for you to be rude. Just be polite, kind, explain why you can't take that low of a price, and keep it moving. It's business. Business is supposed to be professional. Act like it. And then I have a little bit of advice for both sides. Pack light. You don't know what you're buying. On the other hand, you don't know what you're going to be able to sell. So pack light. Wear comfortable shoes. I would say our lives are all at different levels of activity, but if you know that yours is at an especially low level, it's going to help if you wear comfortable shoes. Take care of your hygiene. I know we joke about it all the time because it kind of goes with the kind of fandom and the stereotypes and such. Wear deodorant. People can smell you. Wear deodorant and wash your twice every day when you're going to be walking around sweaty all day. If you don't want to do it for yourself, do it for other people. And the most important thing that I have for advice, if you're going to one of these shows as a buyer or a seller, is get out there and meet people. Shake hands, hang out, find out who's who, talk to people, have conversations. It's a community. We should act like it. Share a beer, a plate of wings, talk about Transformers or whatever you're into, whatever the con is, Star Wars, Dragon Ball Z, whatever it happens to be. Talk about the stuff that you love with other people that love it that you don't always get the opportunity to do so. Make connections, exchange numbers, make friends. It's rewarding. It's the most rewarding thing of this. I will tell you firsthand. People over plastic every day. And for the top tier Patreon folks that are going to TFCon and Reston, I have information coming to Patreon about some special stuff that you will be welcome to. Stand by. I got you. Give me this week and I'll have something up about it. And I think that should do it. Pretty down and dirty. Tired, man. Phones and psychotic clowns. It's been a week. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.